Hi Stampers, it's Lisa with Queen Bee Creations. Welcome to today's live. We are live on a Thursday, which means we are doing stamping made simple. So the cards are a little bit easier and you're able to create them using minimal supplies. So these are good for beginners, but hopefully you're going to learn a few techniques for our more advanced stampers as well. Hi Angie. This is the card we're doing. We're doing a Dutch door card with a little bit of a peekaboo in it. And we're going to do a landscaped and a portrait version. And I'm excited to show you how it's done. So let's move down to the desk. Is the sound hanging out on me okay? I'm getting paranoid about it now that it went goofy. I've got everything exactly the way it was Monday, so hopefully we're good. We're going to be using the Cheers and Sips stamp set. It does come in a bundle, but as this is Stamping Made Simple, we're going to use just the stamp set. We're also going to use the coordinating cardstock that goes with it, the Celebratory Sips. As I said, this is 2 cards. The first one, if we do this landscaped version, I have this piece of cardstock, and I don't know why I already have it cut. Guess I got a little ahead of myself. Let me see if you can see this. So what this is it is 4 1/4 tall, 11 wide, and it's scored at 4 1/4. Okay, once I had that done, I cut it down the middle. So I cut this at 2 1/8. And then I took the punch and I laid it in there halfway and cut out the front little half circle here. And in order to find the middle of these, what I did was I took a piece of cardstock and I punched out a circle. And then I laid it down on my desk so that either side of the circle was, even number of bars to the side. So then I could find the middle. And then I marked the middle. And then I taped it back into this little piece here, so that when I fed it into my punch and I laid things up like it was going to cut that circle exactly where it was once again, then I took a Sharpie and I marked the center. So now I know those are dead center in the circle. I did that with this one as well. I don't know if you couldn't see because this had less like metal on the sides. But I've got little markings for the top and the bottom and then the left and the right so that I can find dead center of the circle. Okay, so as I said, that was 4 1/4 by 11, scored at 5 1/2. I cut down the middle at 2 1/8 and then used my 2-inch circle punch and punched that out. Okay, that's going to give us our base. Then I have this piece of the Celebratory Sips cardstock or designer series paper, and it is 5 1/4 by 1 7/8. And then I'm going to want this to line up right in the middle. Okay, so one of the things we can do is we can come in here and pencil mark. There's ways to do this to, measure and then whatever. But I wanted to show you how we can do this simply. Because pretty much you would think you could go on the halfway here, but you really can't because we have that little bit of a border. So I don't know if you can see that. See how it's giving us that little bit? So what I need to do is I need to move this down to where that's going to be even all the way around. And so it's basically going down 1/8 of an inch from that center mark because that's going to give us the border that is on the top here. Okay, so I'm just allowing for that. Okay, so this is going to punch out and allow me to glue that on here and have it give us that even border I was looking for to mount that on there. Okay. Am I too far away? I feel like I'm a little farther away than normal. Okay. So that's going to be the front of our card. So let's go ahead and put that on. I wanted to let you guys know that I got approval from Stampin' Up. I heard back from the legal department yesterday, and I did get approval on book number 3 of my Fun Fold cards. So that is now available for sale out on my website. Several of you have been anxiously awaiting volume 3. I currently had out volume 1 and 2 of these Fun Fold books, and now there's a volume 3. Each of these books is going to have full directions, measurements, pictures, guides, and they're done for any kind of bundle or designer series cardstock, because it's just going to say card base, coordinating cardstock, DSPs, all of that's going to be listed as kind of generic so that you can design it with whatever bundle and designer series paper and cardstock that you wish. Okay, here is the inside. So the inside, we're going to be using a piece of a 5 1/4 by 4. And then I wanted to put this cup in the middle. Okay, and we can do that 2 different ways. One of the ways we can do that is we can take our designer series paper and we can stamp onto it. Okay, the paper comes with these things. So they're kind of just blotches, and I wasn't sure what to do with them at first until I realized that our stamps line up perfectly. So what I would do is stamp onto this with a little bit of the white showing at the top, because we don't want the liquid overflowing, right? So that would stamp onto there, and then we could either, die cut it if you're more advanced, or fussy cut it out with scissors if you choose. The short one goes in the short things, and the tall one goes in the tall squares, blotches, whatever these are. But that you would just stamp onto there, and then we'll cut them out. Okay. So I'm going to take this one and I'm going to stamp here on the edge, and then we'll fussy cut that out. The other thing you can do is you can fussy cut one of the drinks or these would be fussy cut whether you had the dies or not, because it pokes out above and beyond. Something plain like this or like this, you could die cut straight out, because there is, the tops are flush. So you would just fussy cut one of those out. The other thing we can do is we can stamp in the middle. Okay, so what I would do is I'm going to arrange this kind of where I want it. I'm centering over all in my piece here. I'm not gluing it down yet, because we always say we want to stamp and then adhere. In case there's a boo-boo, we can flip it over and go on the other side. But for this one, I'm going to go ahead and just stamp into that. And then I wanted to create a little bit of grounding. What they call that is when you want a little bit of something around it so it doesn't look like it's floating in midair. It's going to look more like it's sitting on a table or something. Okay, so to do that, in order to have this glass in our foreground, what we're going to need to do is use the Stampin' Up! Masking paper. So I stamped on the masking paper, so this is totally sticky on the backside. It feels like Post-it note kind of quality of stickiness. And then we would Post-it note over this. The beauty of the paper over just a regular Post-it note is this is going to be sticky on the entire back of it, whereas your Post-it note's only going to be sticky on a section. So it kind of all depends on what you're doing with it. I guess you could get away with a Post-it note if it was sticky on the bottom and you're just really careful. But I do highly, highly recommend the masking paper for this. Okay, and then I'm going to come in, let's go, what color do I use? Let's try Bubble Bath. I'm going to start out light. We can always go darker, but we can't lighten it up. So I'm going to take one of our blending brushes. Our blending brushes are awesome. They are super soft and have all these super fine, tiny little bristles. And we're going to swirl onto the pad. I'm putting a little bit of pressure on the head of the blending brush and I'm swirling around. You kind of want to go around the outside edges. You know, you don't want to just do the center, so swirl it around. I usually start off to make sure I don't have any kind of a harsh start. Then I'm going to start on my project and I'm going to begin swirling. Okay. And I'm starting out super soft and then I'm increasing pressure as I go. And you'll notice there's no harsh marks. It's a really nice, smooth, even texture. And then all you do is you peel off the masking paper and there you have your glass in the foreground. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and fill the glass with something. So let's see, let's bring in some colors do I want? I kind of want to go not too dark. So let's try Fresh Freesia. Okay, so I'm going to come in with the brush tip end and I'm going to hold the pen comfortably in my hand and then I'm going to turn the paper as I color so that your hand remains comfortable. Okay, I kind of got close to the edge so that I'm not worried about running off. And then I'm going to start kind of flicking because as you flick, it's going to be darker at the edge and lighter as it goes in. So that's going to allow for better blending. Then we're going to come in with our light and we're going to go right over the top and we're going to do the same thing. Okay, it's going to start out, you're going to be not so sure. It's going to look very, you know, variegated. It's defined there. It's not blending. And that's okay. We're just going to come back in and we're going to go over the whole thing again. And we're just kind of flicking. And then if you want, you can come in and do some swirls as well. But you want to get it good and wet because the better it blends is because the wetter it is, because that makes them bleed together. And that's what we want. We totally expect that the ink will flow through to the back side and will leak all the way through the paper. So sometimes you may want to make sure that you have grid paper underneath something so that in case it does bleed through there all the way, that you're not getting ink on a surface you don't want to. Okay. So now I want to stamp one of the little fruit in there. So I think for this one, I'll do the little blackberry. So I'm going to come in with that. And I'm going to pick this up. And I think I'm going to start with something just super light because really we're going to get our color from the blends or whatever it is you choose to color with. So I'm going to come in with some Smoky Slate. I had done the glass in basic gray. Then I'm going to come in with a Shaded Spruce and a Blackberry Bliss. Now these are very small, so I don't really think you're going to need the two colors for blending because I just don't think there's enough room. But I'm going to put the green on the top for our greenery, and then I'm going to come in with the light Blackberry Bliss. And I'm coloring in the berry. Again, I'm kind of going around the outside edge, seeing that I have kind of defined my edge and I'm not going outside the lines, all that good stuff. Then I can come back in and be a little more aggressive with my coloring on the inside. And that looks kind of cute. I mean, it's okay. But what's going to make this look even cuter is if I come in with a white gel marker and then just give it a few little dots. And this is going to add some depth and dimension and texture, just making that look a little more oomph. You know what I mean? Then we're ready to adhere this to the inside. And then we're ready for our greeting, and then we can move on to card number 2. So I have 2 pieces here because this time around my 2 cards are Strawberry Slush and Bubble Bath, whereas here they were Berry Burst and Bubble Bath. But I'm kind of complementing the 2 cards together, so I have these 2 strips. I'm going to use my Strawberry Slush ink to stamp Cheers on here. Dorinda, did it help you at all when I was coloring the glass to show you how much ink you need to lay down and the ways to get it to blend a little better? Do you have more questions? My friend Alyssa Tilsner, she's a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in Australia, is amazing with her coloring. It's just amazing. And she has a Facebook group called Blends and Beyond. So if you are wanting to really learn how to do blends, she is awesome. She does paid classes that you can get from anywhere. They're just sold on her website because they're digital. She can sell them to anywhere. And there's also some free stuff on her YouTube channel as well as her Facebook page. Okay, so now I have my sentiment stamp. Now I can choose to either flag the end or, round it. I decided to do just a straight cut. So for that, I'm going to bring in my paper snips. And I'll have to put a set of scissors on my Amazon page because Stampin' Up! No longer has scissors. Like, it's such a bummer. The company they were using to manufacture them stopped making them. So we can't get our paper snips anymore. So maybe I'll put some Cutter Bees or something to that liking on my recommended products on my Facebook page and Amazon page and the page on my website. Sorry, can't think and do at the same time. So I'm going to kind of align this so that my border is equal on the side over here and across the top. If I want time to wiggle that around, I'm going to do that with liquid glue because I can wiggle that better than I can the regular seal adhesive. Once that grabs, it grabs. It sticks really well, which is wonderful. But if you need help positioning, liquid glue to the rescue. Okay, then that's going to go right up here. So I'm going to kind of determine about how much I want to cut off. And then we're just going to do a straight cut on the end. And I'm doing it with snips. You can also lay it in the trimmer if you trust that to give you a straighter edge. But there we can put that down there. My friend's name is Alyssa Tilsner, Tilsner, and her Facebook group is called Blends and Beyond. So now for card number 2, it's going to be very similar. We're just going to turn that in the portrait orientation instead of landscaped. So this time I'm going to start out with a piece of cardstock that is 8.5 by 5.5 and then scored at 4 1/4. Then I came in at 2 3/4 and I cut across the front to the score line and then cut up. And so that gave me the Dutch door on the bottom. So that's just half of the card front. Okay, then I'm going to come in with my 2-inch circle and I'm going to align that with those little marks that I made that are the middle. Okay. Okay, so that's going to do just our little cutout with the 2-inch. Sorry, see that a little better if I. So that took that out. Now I want this piece to go right over the top. And so in order to guarantee that my placement is exactly where I want it, I'm going to take a little pencil and I'm going to just draw a line. Okay, then I'm going to come in with the 2 3/8 and I'm going to line that in. And you'll notice it's going to, when I get it all centered, it's going to come down just a teensy bit from our center line mark because there is this much of a border on here. Oops. So then that will lie right over the top and that's going to give me our kind of even border. For our front. For those of you who came on a little bit late, I do have book number 3 of my Fun Fold tutorial books now available. I've had quite a few inquiring on when it was going to be available, and I had to get approval from Stampin' Up! Their legal department has to go over it and make sure that all the proper disclosures and copyright stuff and registration marks, all of that's all in order the way that they want it before they'll allow me to sell it. And that has now been done and it's for sale on my website. So that's exciting news. So if you were one of the ones who asked me about it, it's now available. Now this one, we're going to do the same thing, whereas we're going to put a little drink in the middle here, and we're going to put the, well, I want to call it the grounding in the middle. And this time I'm going to start out with just the grounding first. I'm going to bring in my blender brush and my ink, giving a little bit of pressure. I'll start off over here, make sure I'm nice and smooth. I'm going to start out with light pressure and then I'm going to increase, kind of going around in circles, both directions, and I've got a nice smooth little circle in the middle. That's another great technique for blending if you wanted to do sunsets and, you know, a bunch of those blended backgrounds. Making sure you don't have those harsh marks in the middle is very important. Okay, this time what I did is I stamped onto the designer series paper. So I took our glass stamp and I stamped directly over this so that then I can come in with my paper snips, or if you have the dies, go ahead and use the dies. And this time I'm fussy cutting around this. Coming up like that. Now I meant to do the strawberry, so maybe I should be doing this in red, right? So quickly, since this doesn't take very long, let's just pop in here and do another one. Again, you'll notice that I'm turning the paper more than I'm turning the scissors. The importance with fussy cutting is to make sure your hand is comfortable. You're going to have much more control that way. There we go. I like that better for a strawberry, right? Okay. So because I know this is going to just get glued on, I feel okay just adhering this. No more stamping on this layer. So let's go ahead and put that in. And you could choose to pop that up on dimensionals if you wanted. Usually, if I'm going to pop designer series paper up on dimensionals, I would have taken the whole square before I fussy cut and adhered it to some cardstock and then fussy cut it around so that it was the cardstock and the designer series paper glued together, giving it much more stability and allowing it to not, crumble under the pressure. It'll allow those dimensionals to hold it up and still keep its form. That makes sense. Okay, this time I said we're going to do a strawberry. So I'm going to come in with that stamp. Okay, I'm still going to use a shaded spruce for the greenery on the top. I'm using the small end because there's not much room in here. Then I'm going to take the red. Did you know that you can replace the brush tip end of the markers? Our Stampin' blends are disposable. They don't have refill inks, but sometimes I have run into, especially if they're used in class and beginners don't know what they're doing and a little rough with the tips, then they have a tendency to kind of wear out. And Alyssa actually showed me, and then I made a video as well. So there's a video on my YouTube channel showing how to replace the nibs on these with some from Amazon, allowing you to extend the length if you have, destroyed your tip. And then if I have the real red, once I've replaced the real red tip, when this actually runs out of ink, my tip is still going to be good. So I will save that tip, and then when the new one needs a replacement, then I can put this in it. So I save that in a sealed container, little Ziploc thing, so it stays away from the air. But because so much ink absorbs down into the top, I hang on to them and reuse them. Okay, so once again, I'm going to come in with my white gel pen, and I'm just giving it a little bit of texture by adding little dots to the top. Okay, you can also use a colored pencil. So you could use white or you could use black, just giving the little strawberry a little something extra. Okay. Remember, Stampin' Up! Currently has their in color sale going on. So if you have not picked up the new colors, Strawberry Slush, that is one of them. And then there is Timid Tiger, which is a little bit darker than a pumpkin pie. Cloud Cover, which is a grayish blue. Secret Sea, which is a very deep, dark navy. And Darling Duckling, which is a kind of cooler yellow. But things that involve those colors are often, a lot of them are for sale on the website right now at 15% off. They have also updated the clearance rack, so they have announced what new product or what older product is now retiring. And so that's been added to the last chance list, and a lot of them are discounted, and some of them are really good ones, like the Happy Hibiscus, I think they added to that, and the Unbounded Love stamp set I've been using a lot lately, that got added there. There's some really good stuff to be had. So make sure you click on my links and pop out there and take a look at what's on the clearance rack. You may be surprised and find some really good deals out there. I do appreciate those of you who shop with me, and you are rewarded not only by Stampin' Stampin' rewards. There's my personal royalty rewards, and then I also send out the PDF of the month and a card kit to craft along with me the following month. So thank you to those who keep me in business. As we know, times are rough. Okay, so I want the same angle, so I'm placing one on top of the other, and then I'm going to use that as a guide so that they're cut at the same angle. And then I want one to adhere over the other, and I'm going to kind of wiggle it around until the edge on this side and the edge across the top are the same. I'm going to add some liquid glue so I can wiggle. Got a little bit of fuzz on the edge. Probably need to order a new trimmer. I can't see my blade anymore. The measurements. I use my trimmer so much that I've worn off the numbers. So I need a new trimmer. But sometimes that will happen if the track is dirty and you need to clean it out, that kind of stuff. So often go down the middle of your track with some cardstock and just run it down the middle like this, and you'll be surprised how much like fuzz you can pull out, and that makes your cardstock have these kind of rough edges. But if you do, you can take an emery board, like a nail file, and kind of buffer those off. So there we go. And there is card number 2 of our Dutch door. It's the kind of like half peekaboo at the bottom. And this one has been stamped with the masking paper. And then this one was stamped onto the Designer Series paper and cut out. So this is Designer Series paper. This is Stampin' Blends. Okay, I do have the card we're going to be doing on Monday. Monday, we're stepping back into more advanced fun folds. And so we're going to be using the Happy Hibiscus. And so there is this kind of double flap card that opens up 2 ways. So there's the flaps on the front, and then it opens up all the way for an interior of the card. And we will make this one on Monday. So thank you to those who joined me. I appreciate you being here. If you want to hang out for a second, I will go grab the link to my tutorial books for you and the link to Alyssa's Facebook group for her Blends and Beyond if you want to learn how to color. But otherwise, thank you for being here, and I will see you back on Monday for our other fun fold card. Let's see, blends. There we go. Found Alyssa's link. Here we go. I'm going to put this into the chat. As I said, Alyssa is in Australia, and she does have some classes that you can buy online. That you can do anywhere in the, in the United States. You can still buy her Australian classes. And then here is my tutorial books. And if you're looking for recommendations for stuff that Stampin' Up! Doesn't sell that I use in my lives, I have this link here for the Amazon storefront. So if you were looking for those, there you go. Otherwise, I will see you on Monday. Thanks so much. Bye.